people reacting really say, wow, it's something different. For the first time, we are inside the music. And also, it forced me to compose in a different way. So the result is of course, maybe more organic, more sensual, more warmer also.
Hey, I'm Grahame Farmer, founder of the dance music magazine Data Transmission and Twitch partner, streaming on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays from 1 p.m. On this channel, we share the full interviews from my Twitch streams. But before we jump into this interview, if you can help this video get more reach by giving it a like and a comment, it'd be most appreciative. And don't forget to consider subscribing so you always get notified when we drop new interviews. Jean-Michel, welcome to my Twitch stream. Welcome to my disco show in my garden. And how are you doing?
Fine, Graham. Looking forward to this great, exciting exchange with you and everybody else to talk about this very, very special project of mine.
I'm so excited. I've been listening to it and like trying to dig it into like all the stuff around it, and it just sounds amazing from a kind of multiple levels of points, like how it was made, how you listen to it, and everything around it. I'm excited to dig into it. I'm excited to play some of the tracks for the people in the chat. So thank you so much for doing this, and thank you for your time first and foremost.
My pleasure. No, it's a great project. I've always been interested since the beginning of my career into a relationship between space and music, and even with my first album Oxygen, I was trying to widen stereo with the tools, quite primitive tools I had back in time. And Graham, what's quite interesting is, for decades, we have a kind of frontal relationship with music. I mean, when you are writing for an orchestra, symphonic orchestra, you visualize the music in front of you, the orchestra in front of you, with strings on the side, percussions on the center, and the winds on the other side. When you are producing music, whatever it is hip hop or punk or techno or rock or pop, you have speakers in front of you. When you are in a concert or festival, you still have PA systems in front of you. So we always have a kind of 2D or like a painter, like a blank canvas, 2D relationship with music. And actually, stereo doesn't exist in nature. When I'm talking to you, in mono. Graham, you talk to me in mono. A bird is singing in mono. And it's the audio, the environment around us and our ears, which are creating the perspective in audio. So ironically, the technology of today, immersive sounds and Dolby Atmos and all these kind of new technology, new tools, is sending us back to a very much more natural way of listening to music. For the first time, we can be inside the music. And Oxymore, my new album, what's special about it is actually I started from the composition, from writing the music from the first notes in 360. Most of 360 music, we are immersive with music we are listening at the moment, are stereo production, then mixed in spatial audio. In my case, in the case of Oxymore, I started really from scratch with placing sounds like objects, like audio sonic objects around my head. And it's, of course, a total game changer.
Okay. That's okay. Mental. We've had people on the stream before talking about 3D sound, and it interests me so much. I've listened to the Jungle, who are a band. I've listened to their album in Atmos on Apple Music, and that was like you say, that was an album made specifically made in stereo, but then they've kind of adapted it for 3D sound. So this kind of So and then you're saying now you made every note 3D.
Yeah.
Okay, how does this work? Talk to me about this process. This sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, when I was in studio, instead of placing elements and samples or whatever from right to left, I suddenly said, okay, this sound I would like this sound originally here, and then I would like this sound moving from front right at that speed or with this BPM or without. Without following the BPM, and all these kind of things that you do normally in stereo, you do it around you, and it's a total game changer because when you are, and all painters and producers know that in painting, when you are painting on canvas, if you mix too many colors, too many layers, everything becomes gray. As music producers, it's exactly the same thing. We have all constantly deal with layers and not be, I mean, trying to find tricks to hear everything. And it's sometimes it's challenging. If it's too much, it becomes gray, like for a painter. And the
Mm.
great thing when you are composing in 360 is actually every sound has its own space. So it's a total different approach of composition. And I'm a great believer that this is going to be the way we are going to write music in the future. I think that in the very near future, stereo will be considered as we are considering gramophone of our grandparents. You know,
Yeah, I bet, because especially, yeah, I bet. That's like I'm gang in the chat. Are you surround sound says he's glad he had the extra hour in bed to kind of comprehend all this. His mind's blown already. I agree with you, dude. I agree with you. This is we're going in right. Okay, so yeah, I get it. So you're placing things round. So in my shed, I'd have stuff over there, stuff over there. This is crazy. This is well cool. And when you
yeah,
listen to it, you get that feeling of immersive, don't you?
exactly. So in my studio, instead of having two speakers, I have seven speakers, two
Mm,
two on each side and two in the back, and then one subwoofer. That was when I composed during the composition process. Then I
mm,
moved into a pure multi-channel studio with 27 speakers all around to be able to uh, to place the music every degree with I started with Live Ableton at home in my studio,
mm,
and then I moved to Nuendo and Pro Tools for those really made for multi-channels, really
mm,
to precisely place every sound in space. And it's of course very exciting because by the end of the day, this is no when we talk to each other, everybody could think, it's very complicated technically and all that, and it's
mm.
not. It's a really cool toy. It's a really cool thing to do.
It
Suddenly,
sounds it. It sounds it.
no, it's very funny, Graham, because when I when I when I started back in time electronic music, I was one of the first guy to experiment with for my first album Oxygen, and
Mm,
I had no references because nobody did was doing the music I started to explore. So I had no
mm,
pressure. I was not known, and no one was waiting anything from me. So I was no pressure. And today I got the same feeling, no pressure, because I was exploring something that uh, was never done before. So I had no references, no pressure. And
mm,
I know that next time probably I will have pressure because I did Oxymore first. So it's not going to
mm,
be the same anymore. But you know, there is something very exciting that I want to share with our listeners is the fact that you know we talked about technology, we talk about how exciting it can be, but you know by the end of the day, only the musical result matters. You know, and I think that Oxymore in itself, because of the technology I've used, is very different from what I've done and very different from lots of things that you can hear and listen and enjoy these days, I think. I'm not saying this in an arrogant way, but in a very humble way. But I think I'm absolutely convinced that, you know, with the emergence of metaverse, of
mm.
VR, electric cars, where electric cars are quite quiet for musicians, is like an ideal type of pocket auditorium. So, yeah, all these kind of we see that
Yes.
we go to a immersive world. We go to we are going to explore all these immersive worlds. And when we are talking about immersive worlds, everybody is talking when we're talking about VR about visuals. But you know, the visual field is 140 degrees. The audio
Mm.
field is 360 degrees. So for musicians, for sound designers, it's a whole new ecosystem creating in the future lots of jobs and lots of new genres of music. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
That's amazing. And then someone asked a good question a minute ago. Is there so when you're setting up your is there a 360 controller that allows you to kind of place these, or is it all literally in the computer? Or how is there a hardware? Is it software? Has the kind of 360 placing? And also, how do you kind of go right? I want that. Is that your when you're deciding? I want that over there. I want that over there. Where is that decision process coming from? Is it just a feeling or a?
Yeah, I mean, first question, actually, it's everything is a software. Everything is with the
Mm,
software. we used Nuendo with a sound engineer. Nuendo. We used also the Dolby Atmos tools later on to transfer the multi-channel we produced in studio into Dolby Atmos language, if I can say
Mm.
so. And so it's really like so we have actually all in software you can place everything in X, Y, and Z. X and Y. I mean, everybody understand, and Z also is the depth to get the sound closer or or uh, or not that close or from. I mean, so to create the perspective. So it's really like a stereo everywhere. It's like stereo, but stereo all around you and also above. And
Mm.
what's interesting is actually, of course, you can listen when you listen to it with the result with in a studio, a multi-channel studio. It's amazing, but if it was just for that, it would be just a geek trip.
Mm.
The
Mm.
you can everybody can listen to it with the binaural version with
Mm.
the standard headphones like the one you have on your ears, Graham,
Mm-hmm.
and the smartphone, and it's almost the same result as the multi-channel with PA systems. The second thing, of course, is actually for live is going to be a big game changer. I just did six private concerts, six showcases for the release of the album this week in Paris, uh, with 16 PA systems around the audience. And it was
Mm.
absolutely fabulous. The people were just the jaw like this because it's a
I
total
bet.
different experience. But if I can add something, which is with Dolby Atmos, and Dolby Atmos has not been devised for musicians, but for movie theaters.
Mm.
So constantly in history of electronic music, we have to steal some machines not made, not devised for us, and to try
Mm.
to find the trick to use it for us, to use it for us as musicians. Because the Dolby Atmos at the moment, the difficulty is actually Dolby Atmos is meant for movie theaters, uh,
Mm.
and uh, and uh, and the idea is wherever you are in the theater, you must have the dialogue in front of you, the speakers, the music on each side, and the effects behind. For musicians, we are much more egocentric. We need to be in the middle and having the equidistant relationship all around you. So it's a different thing. So we discuss with Dolby Atmos engineers to try to find ways to get a decent system to do what we done. The second thing for you were mentioning Apple and all these kind of platforms able um, to upload some binaural and spatial audio files. Most of the time, the big difficulty is the mastering process. And if you have sound engineers or even anybody can understand, mastering means that when you have finalized your mix to get the maximum of level, you need to go for a mastering process to make it as powerful as possible. And it's very difficult at today to have a decent mastering for binaural. So this is the reason why that most of the time when you listen binaural to compare to stereo being louder, the binaural is not very convincing. Sounds great. Like if you have because the level is of course is a big game changer. So what we succeeded is to get find a trick to do a very good mastering for the binaural file. And I think that when you compare the stereo file Oxymore and the binaural, there is a huge difference, and you are really able to feel this great immersive feeling.
I mean, okay. Well, gang in the chat, how are you all doing? Are you understanding this? Jean-Michel's just released his brand new album, Oxymore. We're going to listen to some of that in a minute. I'm excited to play some of it for you. Also, if you've got questions, gang in the chat, just let us know. Lars, my helper, is going to be putting them into my file, and we're going to have a definite half an hour of solid questions from you guys as we go along towards the end. This isn't the first. So you released basically two of these albums, one in binaural and one the kind of a normal mastering process. Is that right? And this is and I was listening to the binaural this morning, and it like you say, it's in your headphones. It's fully like you're sitting there going all around you, which is amazing for the average user, like myself, for instance?
Actually, I did. This is, of course, the same music. I started by the 360,
Mm,
uh, as I said, then producing the binaural version, then the stereo version. The stereo version went
mm,
last. Exactly the reverse of lots of productions starting by stereo, as you said very truly, Graham, about the fact
mm.
that most of people, they do their classic traditional stereo production and then they specialize it. I did exactly the reverse. This is the reason why that even the stereo mix is much wider than the normal one because it's coming from the 360 production. And
Mm.
what's exciting about it is actually it can be shared uh, by anybody, as I said. And I think it's also for concerts very exciting to think about a new way of listening to music in days where we are bombarded by visuals. And in my career, I've quite a reputation to do big shows with lots of visuals being involved.
Mm.
In this case, what I'm really planning to do is actually the concerts I'm going to do could be almost in the dark with very less visual and leaving and focusing the visual in VR. So to get a kind of hybrid situation where my next live concerts will be live almost with no visual, but with people closing their eyes and really doing listening the music, and all the visual and the stage design will be done live in VR because I will be at the same time live in a VR world I created called Oxyville, which is between I would say Metropolis and Sin City, kind of imaginary city where I'm playing live. Each time I'm playing live in the real world, if I can say so. I'm also live in the metaverse.
I definitely want to dig into this with you in a bit. Like I fully love kind of chatting metaverse, chatting. I know you're fully into the kind of AR as well as much as VR. I definitely want to talk to you about that as well. There's actually an event in London called Pitch Black Playback, and they literally do listen to albums in complete pitch black. So you kind of get that. Well, from a stereo album, a bit more immersive because you can't see anything; it's just literally in black. But imagining a 360 audio in pitch black is it would be amazing to hear, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's quite amazing. But another aspect of Oxymore we didn't touch yet is actually I started my career in a lab close attached to a national radio, the equivalent of the French BBC,
Hmm.
and this album is also a kind of a tribute, homage to the roots of the French electroacoustic music, electronic music. We have to understand that in the late 40s, you had people such as Pierre-Henry and Pierre Schaeffer, inventor of what we call in musique concrète, the electroacoustic music. And it was based the first time that people were thinking in terms of music by saying, instead of just using notes based on solfeggio, why not using noise and mixing noise with instruments or sound of instruments or electric frequencies, oscillators, but mixing, I don't know, the sound of a bird with a clarinet, the sound of a washing machine with percussions. And these guys, they define actually the way we're doing music these days, because nowadays it's a major contribution for musicians today, because whatever you do these days, you can do hip hop or techno or pop,
Mm,
rock, electro. We're all mixing sound effects with our music. We are all became sound designers as well as musicians. And these
mm,
guys, they are at the origin of all this. And almost nobody knows that. This musician Pierre Henry is he would be he would be born in America. He would be probably even more important than John Cage, because he had much more actually influence to the way the grammar we use for
mm,
doing music these days. And then I wanted a few years back, doing one track with this avant-garde musician called Pierre Henry. And then he got
mm.
ill, he passed away, and it never happened. And then I was in contact with his wife, with his widow, and she said, Pierre left some sounds, fragments of sounds, if one day you want to do something. And for Oxymore, I
No
said, maybe
way.
it could be the good moment to use some of his sounds because this guy was the first one to explore spatialization. He got quite a crazy metallic circle, very big circle
Mm.
like this, and he was using a magnet to actually move in a very primitive way, move sounds all around the room. And I said it could be quite nice to actually pay tribute to this era uh, where they were basically do field recording by recording the sound of the rain, the sound of the street, the sound of the train or whatever, and doing
Mm.
music with this and working on texture. So Oxymore is also a kind of, I would say, bridge between the origin of electroacoustic music, electronic music in the late 40s and tomorrow morning using Dolby Atmos and granular synthesis and all the modern tools we have now. So it's really a kind of past and futuristic project.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Wicked. Should we listen to this one? Should we listen to a track, gang? Do you want to listen to a track? We can do this. Here we go. Shall we? I'm going to skip past track one should I play track one? Let's play track two.
Maybe
I want to give it
this one good choice. Yes, Oxymore.
Yeah.
Oxymore is really a tribute to really the origin with lots of work on texture, but just play it.
Okay, well, let's play it and then you can tell us about it a bit more. How do I do this? Oh yeah, that. Here we go. There we go. That was absolutely epic. I saw a really nice comment there a minute ago. Rainbow Chase said, "I can't wait to get out and listen to and walk to this album because I bet it's an amazing experience with a 3D with outside as well." So that was the first track, Oxymore. Do you want to tell us about it? Basically, I bet it's got a mad story.
Yeah, Grahame. It's the whole album is built like going back to some more abstract tracks to something more festive and more techno-oriented. I really wanted to try to create the idea of a kind of big bang, like this Oxymore track is big bang of electronic music, to something more and more, I mean, melodic and also festive all along until the end of the album. Like in days where we don't listen to albums so much or but more picking some tracks here and there in playlists and all that. But I think that it's great. It's very exciting because then you can learn and having a lot of. But sometimes it's like writing short stories or writing a novel. Sometimes for a musician, on an artistic point of view, you want to tell a story, and Oxymore for me is I really see it as the soundtrack, like that people can the soundtrack of the movie or the story that people can create in their own mind, where there is nothing to see, everything to listen to, and in a sense, with the idea that in that case, your ears can open your eyes, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, 100%. That's crazy. I love that. And we're talking about 3D sound a lot, and am I right in saying that there's a bit of a kind of conflict at the moment between 3D sound? There's two branch ways, as there was maybe like back in the day with VHS and Betamax, or maybe iPods and Zunes. There is this kind of split of who's going to win the battle of which is the kind of industry standard of 3D sound.
Yeah, we are at the moment in the dark age of immersive worlds. It's true for metaverse. It's true for VR, from AR. We know that in the next few months, lots of things are going to change. And in terms of sound, the same. You have Dolby Atmos technique. You have now just Google and Samsung are just also getting a new format called Caviar. And then you have this very interesting company called Fraunhofer, the German one. They created the MP3 originally. So it's probably the best multi-channel system at the moment. And they are working with Sony for the Sony 360. So you have actually at the moment 2 and soon 3 different formats. And it's like the beginning of video or the beginning of internet, but you have few players and maybe they will coexist, or maybe one will win. We don't know yet. So at the moment, which is complex for us, is we are more and more when you are releasing an album or a track, you have more and more jobs as a producer because you have to produce for vinyl, for CD, for streaming platform, in mono, in stereo, in binaural, in 360, becoming a
Mm,
bit of a nightmare. But it's because also we have to think that we're still in the, as I said, the dark age of all this. It's the beginning of metaverse, beginning of immersive sounds, but it's a very exciting opportunity for young creators. It's always good to be in this kind of technological disruptive moment where
mm.
all doors are open. I think it's a very good moment, very exciting.
Yeah, sounds it. Sounds it. A lot of our audience is sort of new producers, aspiring producers. Can they get into this 3D sound now, or do they have to have setups? And is it more expensive, or can they download the software and play with it? And is it open to them as well?
And many all those all sequencers now they have immersive plugins.
Mm,
The one the most developed at the moment is Nuendo from Steinberg,
mm,
uh, and Pro Tools also, but Nuendo is far more advanced. I'm using Live Ableton. They are a bit late in terms of immersive plugins, but they have tools you can use, and some of them are even free. So you see that you can really, with even 4 speakers and for small speakers, you can do this, and one
mm,
subwoofer, you can already compose and produce in your in your bedroom, in your home studio, with very not very expensive and not very expensive equipment, because even if you have four speakers around you, you can still feel the space. Of course, it will be more precise with more speakers, but
mm,
already with a kind of regular, what we call 5.1
mm,
studio small speakers, you can do that, and then you produce the results in binaural because you have just like a down mix, and here we go, and you can distribute your music from your home studio directly, like we do for stereo. It's the same thing. So it's a very exciting process, because what I think is, I'm not a great believer, to tell you the truth, of these companies and majors saying, okay, it's really cool. We are going to do the same thing as we did for CD after vinyl. We sold the same music to the same people because they had the music. Let's say the Beatles or Pink Floyd in vinyl. We're going to
mm.
send the same music with CD because it's a new technology. And today, I know that some majors are thinking the same, saying, we could get Frank Sinatra or the Beatles in 360. But what? Who cares about having Frank Sinatra in 360? It has been recorded in mono, and
Mm.
having Frank Sinatra's voice turning around your head is just stupid. It's not interesting. What is interesting is to create new music for these new formats. You see what I mean? So for
No,
for
I
young
agree.
for young producers, it's a great opportunity.
Can you mix Cairo FX Live? Can you mix immersive sound in your headphones?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a great question.
It's even more precise. Well, it's exactly the way when you mix in stereo with your
Mm,
headphones, you can hear a lot of details, and to have a precise to place your sound directly and precisely. Headphones is a very good reference, and of course you can do it. I did myself some remix, for instance, and just without using my standard headphones. So
well, that's
yes,
very cool. Okay, that's very cool. It sounds like you like I'm not. You've obviously had a lot of albums and a lot of sales, and it sounds like with this album that you just was like, what really fun thing can I do, and where can I push myself into a new level now? And it sounds like you just had amazing fun with it.
yeah, and it's what when I listen to it, and I'm really, I mean, the album has been is released now for 1 week, and I'm really pleased to see that I have extreme positive feedback about the fact that people reacting really say, wow, it's something different. For the first time, we are inside the music. And also, it forced me, but that was even almost unconscious, to compose in a different way. So the result is of course maybe more organic, more sensual, more I mean warmer also, and uh,
Mm.
and it can be it's I think it's quite as well as the cool and ambient part, rather than the quite brutal and rhythmic part. It works both ways, and I think it's good. I think it's quite exciting on a composition point of view, because you can really create total different contrast. And when you have from a kind of cool moment, and you suddenly go into it with real drums and all that, it's really fantastic. It's like, it's like when you listen in a Dolby Atmos movie theater, some explosive moments in soundtracks. You can include this in your music, but
Mm.
in a more musical point of view, because you have musicians. It's not, as I said, uh, to compose some music is not for a track, for a song, is not the same thing as composing a soundtrack. You're not trapped by the fact that you have to follow the visual. So
Mm.
it's a real good opportunity, very exciting.
Do you have to think about the when I'm guessing, because when we listen to more kind of not 3D sound, we're kind of, there's always that kind of muddy and the space between music. I'm guessing there is, when you're making 3D music, there's obviously a lot more space. Do you have to kind of be aware of there not being sound in spaces, and then not being, and you have to be aware of like filling the space basically, as opposed to it just there not being a sound there and then what's happening there all the time?
Yes, yeah, Graham is a very good point, very interesting question, because actually, um, in stereo, less is more, because after a
Mm,
while, as I say, the risk danger is you lose the dynamic. I would say that
mm,
in 360, I would say almost more is more, because if you suddenly put one sound in space there, it's a little bit naked if you don't
mm,
create the right fusion. The key in music is the fusion, and for modern music, the key is the fusion done, the glue done by drum and bass, the low
mm,
mid. This is the foundation of your song. As any kind of music producer, they know that. Suddenly, if you explode your spectrum all around you, it's something totally different in terms of get creating this fusion. And for each track, it's almost something that you have to explore yourself. Do I keep the drum and bass stereo just in front? Do I put it in cross like this, or in X like this? It's all
mm,
depending on the kind of bass or the kind of kick you choose, for instance. And I really experimented all this, because I had no references behind me. And I'm of course today happy to share all this for people, because they will save time.
mm,
Because and for instance, once if you have just three or five sounds, for instance, like, could be really cool in stereo. In 360, you can still have these three five sounds, but then each sound should have maybe let's say you have a chords of four notes. Uh,
mm,
Maybe it's quite good to have one note of the chord somewhere, one note somewhere else, one note somewhere else, and the last note somewhere else. So your chord suddenly, instead of being here, it's there. and
mm,
and and it's like when you are working with an orchestra on a score. You have one line for violin, one line for the viola, violin
mm,
B, one
mm,
line for cello, and one line for double bass. When you play
mm,
with keyboards, you play all the notes at the same time in stereo, and it's cool.
mm.
But in 360, you have to divide all these lines. It's a little bit longer, but the result is fantastic.
Do you in kind of thinking of it, is will certain genres then not work in 360 because there are less of them and there's less kind of structure to them? Like, I think kind of minimal, like kind of minimal genres where it's like there's very little to the music, but it is the kind of groove and kick and bass and that sort of that moves along. Will they not work three? Like, is there genres that don't work 3D?
I don't know. It's a difficult question because I should have explored all genres of music to answer.
Sorry.
But yeah, you have also people today. They can decide to do an entire track in mono. Why not? Or instead
Mm,
of some Chemical Brothers tracks, for instance, are very mono, not using a lot of stereo, and it's fantastic. It's great. So
mm,
you know what's cool about technology is nothing replaces nothing. We can still,
mm,
for instance, filming in black and white. It's still existing, even if you have 3D and you have Avatar on one side, and you can have some black and white movie on the other side. So you
mm.
can do whatever you want. But thinking about your question, I think it's still a matter of decision. If you take, for instance, Billie Eilish, very, very sparse. You have not a lot of things. You have the big production on the vocals and quite not very rich arrangement, not with lots of things. And that makes the strength of Billie Eilish. I just take Billie Eilish as an example.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, the vocals, the processing, the reverb, the delay, you can suddenly put it in 360. And if you conceive again this from scratch, I think you can get amazing results.
Should we listen to another track? Let's do it. Let's get in. Should we skip down to the next one? Tell me about Neon Lips, the third track.
Neon Lips is actually more or less the reverse of what we just heard. Is a more, I would say, more subtle, more feminine, lighter, with some. I mix some female vocals and sounds with sine waves to create a kind of contrast, like also almost an oxymoron.
Mm,
Oxymoron means two elements uh, which had nothing to do with each other, and morphing them to create something unexpected. So this whole project is based on that, and this track is more more subtle, and I would say maybe more female, more feminine, maybe softer, but quite crazy also. They're all quite all every track is quite different in itself, and it's what I like in the project of this project. So Neon Lips.
let's do this. There you go, gang. How you enjoyed that? If you're listening at home and you've got your headphones on, because I'm using the binaural version on from SoundCloud, so you should be getting the hopefully the full effect because I'm streaming it through something and streaming it through out there. But hopefully you're getting the kind of full effect of the music from this Twitch stream. Hopefully, let me know in the chat if you are. I've seen some people that are and they're enjoying it. Some of them are using 3D headphones. That's great to hear.
Yes, Graham. Actually, I was just going to say that, of course, the binaural version is made for headphones, not for
Mm,
speakers. It's okay on speakers, but there's nothing special. It's just you listen to the music normally. But
mm.
of course, my advice would be for people who are following us, if they can, to listen to the music with their headphones, whatever headphones it is, doesn't matter. The standard
That's
headphones.
great. That's great. It works on even the base models of headphones. That's great.
Yes, you don't need any kind of extra technology or extra files or app or whatever. Just your standard headphones and
Mm.
your smartphone or laptop is all right.
Creating music like this, does it kind of allow you to give more depth and emotion to music?
What do you mean?
Well, I guess because you've got more space, you've got kind of that 3D area that you can kind of, it allows you to maybe bring more emotion, more range to what you're creating.
Absolutely. I mean, it's you still have some people, if they listen to the album or some tracks 2, 3, or 4 times, they will discover sounds they didn't discover, they didn't see. It's
Mm,
like it's like watching a movie sometimes 2 or 3 times. Suddenly you discover things that you didn't see the first time. It's exactly the same thing because you have lots of informations in Oxymore all the way. You have lots of things going on, and also I wanted to have fun with the fact that in days where we are we are very formatted tracks where you have patterns of 4 bars repeating, copied, and when you have a kind of logic into the progression of a track. In the case, I really wanted to break with this. I mean, every 4 bars or every 5 bars or 7 bars, something is happening, something is changing. So,
Hmm.
it's like in a day-to-day life. I mean, the day-to-day life is not linear. It's not made of pattern. So, we don't know what's going to happen in 1 hour or in 5 minutes. I really wanted to create this kind of crazy, frantic feeling all along the album.
That's lush. Love it. Let's talk hardware. You mentioned the kind of spatial and the 3D processing is all software. Are you still using hardware with that as well? Are you sound designing in hardware and then kind of moving into software? How does that kind of process work?
Actually, I really recorded with lots of different things, from acoustic strange instruments or percussion with contact mic.
Mm,
Uh, I used modular synth, such as the modular Moog or Eurorax. I also used a lot of two very, very new instruments, fantastic. Uh, One is called the C15, and the other one is Osmos from Expressive. Two new synths, very, very special, and people can Google them.
mm,
They are very interesting, and also some granular synthesis and software. And so I mixed a lot of things. Also, because we're just discussing, Graham, just before about this whole origin of electronic music, when people had no synthesizer. It was even before synthesizers. So
mm,
what they had was just tape recorders with sellotape and scissors, and they were just on magnetic tapes, processing sounds, making them slower, playing backwards, the way we do it now instantly with softwares. These guys, they were spending hours to do this, but of course the result was totally different. So I got a lot of fun to try also to create these kind of things. For instance, at the beginning of the album, there is the sound of a fire, and I mixed the sound of real fire with uh, like people doing sound effects in movies when they use, for instance, magnetic tapes or that this kind of paper, chocolate paper like
mm.
this, and
Yeah,
when you do this in front of a mic, it's exactly the sound of a fire. So I use this kind of things, at the beginning,
that's well cool. That's
and
very cool.
all these kind of things, these kind of very primitive tricks uh, to all the most advanced softwares and plugins. So I mixed a lot of different things actually.
That's very, very cool. My regular gang, we should have a challenge of that. We have these challenges on my Twitch stream for my regular gang to go and make tracks out of things, and sometimes it's out of something that I've said, or something it's out of collabing with people, or we get vocalists in to come in. Gang, on my normal gang, we should have a kind of immersive sound, or just make a track out of something. And we'll give you some weird noises to make it. You can kind of have a go at that sometime next year. Let's note that one for next year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah,
that'd be very fun.
yeah.
I was going to ask, now you're 22 albums in, what have you learnt either about yourself when it comes to making albums, or that you didn't know when you first started making albums, or is there certain things you've pulled along all the albums that you continue to kind of do? Or yeah, I guess what have you learned in between those, the first and the last, I guess?
I'm because I'm not really living in nostalgia. I'm not really interested of what happened before.
Hmm.
I'm very rarely listen to previous albums. It happens to me, but I'm more interested by present time or future, or to try to find being like a sponge and stealing objects or new toys. Really, like I think that I'm and I think that which is the key for when you're progressing into doing doing tracks and doing after after a certain time. I mean, to still have this kind of teenage freshness where you
Hmm.
just exploring things. And I've been quite. Totally agree with. I heard Bjork saying a few days ago. when I start, she says, when I start an album, I don't think about if it's going to reach 30 people, 3,000 people, or 3 million people. And I think it's absolutely right. We are just doing things. I never thought about doing something to please somebody, or it has to please myself first. And to please myself first, I have to to surprise me with some
Mm.
objects, some. So I have a lot of synth and keyboards and track in my studio, and sometimes I just all the time for starting a project, I say, okay, I'm going to use just those ones, and I'm going to keep these ones. Most of the time, after 1 week, I don't follow my dogma. But at the beginning, it's something that I like to do, and to try to create to change habits, to change the routine. And I think it's
Mm.
quite a good way to at the moment sometimes to surprise yourself.
Love that. I love that. Yeah, I love it so much that I think of the same. When I'm always kind of like, what's the next? When everyone asks me like, who's your favorite producer? I'm always my answer is always the one I've not heard yet, and the next one that I might hear that I absolutely love. And I love the fact that you push forward like that.
It's exactly what we are doing now. This kind of exercise we have together. Actually, we have no idea. I have no idea about what's going next. What is the next question? I love that. I hate people, for instance, these kind of things. Oh, we are going to talk about this. Maybe here are the questions. I don't want to know. It's much better to just and this is cool about this. What is cool about life, and that is cool about creativity, because I think I'm very privileged as an artist, being able to always, exploring new territories and and trying to just experimenting things. And Oxymore is for me some I got a lot of fun, and it's funny because Graham, I it took me maybe 7 weeks to write all the music, but it took
Hmm.
me then 7 months to produce the whole special things the way really I wanted to do it. So and ironically, because the music is very rich of Oxymore, you have lots of elements, and I went almost in an unconscious way. I was really sometimes it's going fast. We all know that as a music producer. Sometimes you stay 3 weeks stuck on one thing, and most of the time
Hmm.
it's very bad. And some of the time, ideas are just coming like this in a very mysterious way. And for Oxymore, I must say that it's a complex album. It's not complicated, but quite complex with lots of formations. But it went probably because I was exploring this kind of space around me. I had lots of space and lots to experiment and to put lots of different sounds and also to try to find to surprise myself with unexpected encounters with sounds. I, like I said, the clarinet with a bird, or all these kind of things, and to try to match them, and it was really fun.
That's very cool. That's very cool. Have you thought about favoritism asked in the chat? Have you actually contemplated how the brain positions this sound? Like you're positioning it there, but have you looked into the how the brain then deals with the sound coming from all around you?
Yes, it's a very very interesting thing, because by the end of the way, art is art. Any art form is all about fooling your brain. You know,
Mm.
it's like the cheating and to surprise your brain. And then with these kind of things, you can really I mean, surprise your brain. And suddenly, for instance, if you have a sound going from here to here, and then pam pam, your brain will not feel the movement. But if you move it from there at certain speed, you really feel the space much more. It's all kind of thing that you learn on the way, on the go, on the process. This is quite fun. Yes, of course.
It sounds really cool. I get like no wonder it took 7 months. It must have just been like I'll try it a bit slower, I'll try it a bit faster, and see, and then just kind of touching and feeling as you go, basically.
Yeah, but also, you go back to it and you start and you say, it could have been better. For me, an album is never finished. So the only thing is the deadline. You know that you have a deadline, and then you have to stop. Otherwise, and also sometimes if you work too much on something, just ruining and destroying what you've done. And so it's a very subtle mixture, subtle balance between being a perfectionist and not being too obsessed and destroying what you've done. So it's a difficult balance. All music producers, they know that.
I guess there's the playing with the playing with the sound. I guess was there from playing with the sound, but was there kind of external influences you kind of pulled into this project that you want to discuss?
From because I really started the process exactly 1 year ago, and since 1 year, the technology evolved so much, like if it was 10 years. So the tools today are much more, much richer and much different than 1 year ago. It goes so fast. So this is also the reason why that on the go, I said, maybe I could use this that I didn't have 6 months ago. And then you can become crazy very, very quickly with this. So at one moment you have to, but this past few months, I learned a lot on all these matters. It's very exciting. Also linked to VR, to AR. It's also a quite good combination also.
Okay, let's listen to another track and then we'll start talking VR and AR because I really want to get into that. Let's get in and listen to the next one. I'm just gonna keep going down because I feel like playing it in the order you intended it in is the best for our audience and for the rest of the listeners. So Sonic Land.
Yeah.
Tell me about the story of Sonic Land.
Sonic Land is, as the title means, a kind of trip mixing really acoustic strings from orchestra with sounds made with the synclavier. Synclavier is one of the first sampler from the 80s. Very complex machine, with very specific sounds. And the second part is with. I was talking to you about the fact that I wanted to create some tracks with every 4 bars there is something unexpected happens, so I really the second part introducing all the drum loops, but the drum loops are always changing all the time. Then even the sound of the kick, the sound of the rim shot or bass drum, halftime. I mean, just to surprise the ears and to surprise the brain, because these changes of the sound of the kick or bass mixed with the different position in space creates something quite exciting and quite unexpected again.
Okay, well, let's listen to this. I'm excited to hear this. Let's go for it. Holy moly! Someone in the chat says, I think Skeleton Keys said it sounds like it's like a movie soundtrack on steroids.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Actually, we have a partnership with Dolby Atmos, and we are doing some listening sessions, and we are going to do listening sessions all over the world in a pure Dolby Atmos movie theater. It's quite spectacular. Last Friday, Thursday, we did two listening sessions at the Chinese Theater in Los Angeles, where the Star Wars famous Dolby Atmos theater, and the sound was absolutely amazing. It was absolutely amazing. One guy from Dolby went and set up each speaker, and they said exactly what you said. It's like a soundtrack in steroids, so on steroids. So it's quite fun, all this. Apart from that, there is another aspect of the project that. Apart from the original album, I'm planning what I started already to release every 3 weeks, every month, reworks or remixes, or asking some established artists or just beginners to do some extensions of the original album. It started with the track "Brutalism" that we'll listen to it maybe later on, and Martin Gore. Martin Gore did one remix. It's not a remix; it's actually more a rework and an extension, revisited. And also Death Pact. I love this Death Pact. Is quite underground, very mysterious American act. They could be the children of Skrillex, in a sense.
No way.
And so they did a fantastic version as well. The next one on Epica is going to be by Brian Eno also,
Sick.
and you have Armin van Buren being involved and lots of other people all during the whole year. And the idea is in 1 year from now, releasing the original and the extensions and the revisited versions of different artists, renowned artists, and also more beginners. And it's quite
That
exciting. Also another bridge to the story.
that's very cool. That's very cool. Okay, someone who asked in the chat if we can have a remix competition? Who said that? I can ask. They're
Yeah,
asking if we can create a competition from our members of the chat to see if they to have a chance of remixing it.
of course, absolutely. You're absolutely be my guest.
That'd be very cool. Okay, I'll speak to the team afterwards. Okay, so then let's talk about the kind of visual. We've talked about the music and the sound. Let's talk about the visual. You've been heavily working on. You mentioned Oxyville, which is your VR world. I was watching some of the video from it. It looks incredible, and you did a performance in VR. Can you tell me about? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, since the past few years, I've been quite involved in VR. I did 2 years ago for New Year's Eve a big VR concert in VR Notre Dame, and it was a big success. We got 75 million people following across the world, so it was absolutely amazing event where I was playing live in the studio and playing live in virtual Notre Dame, which is impossible to have at the moment because Notre Dame is still, as we know, it burned 3 years ago and it's full
Oh
restoration.
yeah.
You can't get in. You can't get in. So it was absolutely amazing to be inside Notre Dame with my avatar in front of avatars, and that was really cool. And then for this project Oxymore, I said it could be quite fun to create an imaginary music city between I was saying Metropolis and Sin City, all in black
Mm,
and white, save data because the problem. I was saying, Graham, we were discussing just before that we're still in the dark age of VR, and the problem is when you go to Roblox or to Sandbox. I mean, of course, because you have to be live,
mm,
you just have to work with very primitive cubes, and
mm.
the look of it is still very like the video games of the 90s, like a Lego kind of aesthetic. And I try to uh, to say, okay, because we have this technology, what could I do? And then I think, okay, I'm going to think about the first Russian old movie in the constructivist where everything is cubic, and then because it's cubic
Yes.
and primitive and cubic and black and white, it doesn't eat too much data. And then, but
Mm,
still, you can have a kind of style, a kind of aesthetic style. So I
mm,
created this city, and the idea is to get these different districts. And when I'm playing live Oxymore, you have 11 tracks, and then we created 11 districts, 11
oh,
places where you have
sick.
historic districts. You have a train, you have a funicular, you have a garden, a park, and each track you are teleported in a new district. So it's really cool. And then when I'm playing live in a hall in a venue, at the same time I'm playing live in Oxyville, and it means that somebody from Shanghai or from Rio or from LA or from London, they can be
Mm,
with us in Oxyville. And just one short story, one anecdote, because for me VR has also a social dimension to the whole thing. When we were rehearsing, we invited some fans and some people in Oxyville just for during the rehearsals. And then at the end of the rehearsals, I put my headsets on and I went into the Oxyville to discuss and having a kind of discussion with the people being there. You had maybe 40 people, and you had one guy from Shanghai, one girl from Massachusetts, one girl from Hungary, from Santiago de Chile, and we were discussing. And you had one girl very excited, very active, and dancing everywhere, and she was from and asking lots of questions. And after a while, I said, "But who are you?" And she said, "I'm from Manchester." And I
mm.
discovered that she was quadriplegic. She was tetraplegic. She was paralyzed. It was the first time in her life.
Oh, no way.
in her life that she was following. She was connected to a live concert and dancing, and that was of course something very moving and something exciting. And I think that what's interesting in VR, it's actually you can connect with people who are isolated for geographic reasons, for social reasons, or for reason of handicap. And this is also another game changer for artists, of course.
That's incredible. I'm taking a moment to take that in. That's amazing that even happened.
Yeah, really amazing. Yes, I agree.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about when it comes to Roblox and the characters. My 10-year-old daughter has me playing Roblox all weekend, so I know Roblox really well. I like I like when you had your versions of it, where you looked like a hologram, and it looked like you were inside the kind of this grey 3D world. It looked very cool.
Yeah, so we worked because I'm working on my avatar. I had the first avatar, but now technology is allowing you to go much further and much more in detail. So 2023, I'm planning to be born again, to be born my avatar. We are preparing my avatar, and there is an whole thing around the birth of my avatar. And but also what's great in VR, you can be with your avatar, but you can be also with a kind of hologram. You have now some cameras called the Kinect, able to capture your image, like with capture on your body.
Yeah.
But instead of having capture on your body, you have one Kinect and even few cameras. I mean, you don't need to have any captors on your body because it takes every details of your movements. And then to project that, it's not exactly a hologram. It's between holographic and avatar technique. And it's well, the great thing is actually it can be yourself. I mean, you can be Grahame, not the avatar of Grahame. You can be the real Grahame and the real JMJ, the real Jean-Michel inside. And it's what we did for Oxyville this time. And it's worked very well because suddenly you are in a district, like in a festival, outdoor, and you have the stage with myself in the middle of a park or in the middle of in front of in a theater or anywhere you want. So that's quite cool.
That's very, very cool.
And also, Grahame,
Yeah.
this city, I really would like being. I'm a little bit like the mayor of the village with the keys, and I would like in the future giving the keys of the village or one district or one area for young DJs or young producers, so they can come and do their own project or residency or getting familiar to some VR tools. This is really something. We're not ready yet, but in a few months from now, I really would like to open the city to young producers or old
That sounds very
producers.
cool.
Yeah,
that sounds very cool. Is it when you're performing live? Do you then right? So okay. So I understand the visual now. I kind of understand the audio. How does that combine when you're playing live? Are you playing 3D live? Are you playing? How does that part work?
yeah. I'm playing 3D live, and in VR, it's binaural for headphones. You cannot yet. You cannot have the full multi-channel in VR. It would be too greedy in terms of data. But binaural, yes, binaural, and also with head tracking. So I mean, if you move, if you move your head in VR, the sound is moving also. Like in real life.
That's very cool. That's very,
Yeah.
very cool. And are you so from a performance point of view, are you using a big kind of live setup? Is that, can you talk us through that?
Yeah, it's constantly evolving. At the moment, I'm using with lots of touch screen from very interesting. It's called the Era Touch. It's from a company called Embod.me. And this company they created is it's a little bit like an iPad, but you can also iPad is just you just touch a hard glass. In this way, you can also push inside, so you have like a keyboard a little bit, so you can play X, Y, and Z. So I use few of them. So one is dedicated for percussion, the other one for joystick for space. Another one is for sending samples. Another one is for mixing. I don't have any more mixing desk. The one touch screen is dedicated for mixing, so it's quite. And also I have some instruments I play with a bow, like waterphone, very acoustic.
Mm.
The thunder drum, which is a very fun drum. It looks like a bongo with a long tail, metallic tail, and when you shake it, it creates the sound of thunder. It's quite spectacular. I have one around. I think when we'll play the next song, I will get it and I will show it to you later.
Amazing. Yeah, let's play another song in a minute. I heard you speaking recently about augmented reality, and I love the thought of augmented reality, especially when it comes to. I think I'm more excited about AR than I am about VR, and I think mainly, especially when you start getting into kind of contact lens. Obviously at the moment it's quite blocky, but even when you're going to glasses, and then you're going to contact lenses, it's going to really change that kind of modern, live performances and what you can do live. Have you? I guess I just want to get your thoughts on it.
I totally agree. I'm sure that in the next 10 years, in 10 years, we look back to our time with this stupid huge glasses, like we are looking with lots of nostalgia. The first cars, first cars are pom 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 pom. I mean, just going at 20 miles per hour, and
And
this
the
kind
first
of thing.
computers and the first phones as well.
Like the first Macintosh, or
Yep.
because very quickly, in about 1 year or so, you'll have glasses like mine.
Mm,
We could have, this will be normal glasses or side glasses with AR
mm,
and VR. It will
mm,
be, and this is going to happen, and that's going to be, of course, a big game changer. And when you're talking about AR, which is great with AR, that you could imagine that for instance, you could imagine a gig in a white hall. There is nothing, and all the design is coming from in your glasses.
mm.
So, I mean, in terms of carbon footprint, you can save lots of things. That lots of advantages. For instance, you could have in a electronic festival, you could have this, but all the lights and fireworks could be in your glasses. For instance, this kind of hybrid
That's very
situation
cool.
could be a game changer. You can be also uh, at your home and having the artist singing or playing in your living room, with AR. All these kind of fantastic things going to change entirely the way we conceive shows in the future.
That's going to be crazy. That's going to be very crazy. Right, let's listen to the track, and then we've got about half an hour left. Let's get into. We've got so many questions from the audience, so I feel like let's go on. Let them. We'll ask loads of those, and then get your questions over. So if you've got any more questions, get them in while we play the next track, and then we'll go rapid fire for Jean Michel and see if we can
Yeah.
see what.
Okay. Okay. Let's
That
do
sound
that.
fun?
Yeah.
Okay. Right, we are on animal.
Yeah. The problem is if we can't play everything, I
Yep.
think we could go to
Where do you want to play?
maybe.
You choose one.
Yeah, maybe we could maybe play Sex in the Machine, maybe.
There we go.
Yeah, I would be happy to answer to some questions.
Let's do it. Skeleton Keys. I want to know how you feel about artists that have sampled you.
Yeah, I think I really love that. Recently I got Big Sean, featuring Kendrick Lamar, just
Mm,
used a sample from a track of mine called Souvenir of China from my first China concerts. It was when I was just starting a long time ago, when I just
mm,
the first Western musician to play China, and I did
mm,
at that time a track called Souvenir of China, and then Big Sean just use it for a new track featuring Kendrick Lamar, and this is a
mm,
very good example of something really great. It's nice. I love the idea of it's like in fashion. In fashion, everything is recycled.
mm,
They recycle the 80s, the 90s, in for shoes, for shirts or whatever. And it's the
mm,
same phenomenon in music with using existing existing tracks and using it in a different way. I really love that.
That's cool. Yeah, I do as well. I like the kind of recycle. Right, next one. I'm going to keep going with these. There's loads. Flipping hell. What is your favorite plugin and software? Let's go geeky.
Changing all the time is really it's an impossible question because it depends on what you want to do.
Yeah.
Basically, I love Omnisphere from Eric Pershing from Spectrasonics. I love all the sample logic plugins and all Arturia also. All Arturia's copy of hardware into soft synth are very, very well done. I love them.
That's cool. Someone also said in the chat, I saw it during that last track, that it would be amazing to see a collaboration with you and Eric Prydz. I don't know if you're aware of Eric Prydz and his kind of mad hollow kind of 3D shows.
I know him. I know his work very well, and pass the message over to him whenever he wants.
Man, let's clip that and make it happen.
Yes.
We'll clip it and make it happen.
Exactly. That's right.
Would you go back and mix your older albums in 360?
Not necessarily, because as I said, I think the previous albums, maybe except Oxygen for very strange, very specific reasons, have not been designed for 360. And I'm quite against at the moment revisiting some things that have been done in stereo in 360. For me, it's a little bit like colorizing black and white movie into colors.
Yes, I get it. There's a channel here in the UK, and it's basically it's the war movies in color.
Yeah, no, it's quite fun. This is the reason why I say it's not necessarily always. War in color. I don't know if it's that fun, but it's quite interesting because suddenly it becomes in a very strange way the war into a kind of a dark video game. So it's quite interesting.
I think these are just it's not the whole war. It's just the war movies. I missed the word movie out.
Also, you had the BBC did a war in color with they found some first color cameras from Japan and from America filming kamikaze in color, and all that. It's quite strange, quite crazy. But you know what I mean. I think most of the time I'm not really interested to revisit what I've done, maybe except for Oxygen, because Oxygen has that kind of spacey texture that could work, but otherwise no.
I noticed that you. I was watching interviews earlier, and I noticed that you mentioned that you'd kind of with Oxygen you'd done a parts 2 and parts 3 of kind of like sequels of in a movie, and I wanted to just say that when I was speaking to you that I love that kind of notion that you would have a like in films you'd have parts 1 and parts 2 and parts 3 and kind of sequels to things, and I love that you'd done that, and you don't see that very often, and I just wanted to while I was with you I thought I'd like to tell you.
I want to do maybe one day a prequel of Oxygen, like Alien, to do before. It could be quite fun. But I agree with you. I think it's not done a lot, and I love the idea of having done the sequel of like in a movie. I think it's quite fun.
Milan Kalasper, if I may ask Jean-Michel, when Vroom and Pavel were creating the virtual Oxymoron, were they told what to display for which song, or was there kind of did they have the creative input?
No, I think I devised the whole. I defined the whole visual environment, and then I asked Pavel and the VR Room team to conceive what I had in mind and they did it with great talent. And then I decided that this district or this visual environment should go with this song. I mean, I really had like a director, like a movie director, and then of course, working with a brilliant graphic team like Pavel and the old Vroom team.
Thanks to Milan for asking the question.
And thanks to Milan for the question.
Well, good. What's the next one? Hi, Jean-Michel. From an artistic creative perspective, was it easier to create Oxymore than Zuluk? What was the biggest change you had to overcome with Oxymore? Wow, big question.
As I said, I always am convinced that technology or new technological tools are dictating a project. In the case of Oxymore, we talked about it with immersive technology, Dolby Atmos, etc. And for Zuluk, it was an instrument called the Fairlight. The Fairlight was, with Synclavier, the first big sampling instrument. And I received it. I was the first one in Europe I remember with Peter Gabriel also getting one. It's an Australian instrument. And that was really at the origin of Zuluk, because for the first time, you could, I don't know, record the sound of your dogs and playing chords with your dogs, with the note of your dogs, barking instantly. And you could sample anything and playing and getting it in your keyboard immediately and playing chords with any kind of sounds. So that was really the basis of Zuluk. So each project is linked to a kind of new instrument for me.
That's very, very cool. Cairo FX Live, can you tell us more about the mastering immersive sound? Can you tell us more about mastering immersive sound?
Interesting and challenging answer, because at the moment when the mastering tools are devised and designed for stereo, for two tracks, suddenly in multi-channel, if you take Dolby Atmos, you have to deal with 12 tracks at the same time, 7.4.1, which 12. And you don't have hardware mastering tools yet for that. So we had to create a fairly complex plugins to be able to masterize the 12 tracks at the same time in sync. And that was quite difficult. And my brilliant friend David Perrault, mastering engineer, I mean, he found the way to do a masterizing all these 12 tracks at the same time. This is the reason why we have a quite decent level and quite decent powerful result compared to the stereo track.
That's very cool. I get sucked into listening, man. It's like I could listen to you all day. It's amazing. This is so interesting and so blows my mind. I'm enjoying so much of it. So thank you very much for joining us today. It's been so much fun.
No, I'm really enjoying the conversation as well, I was saying. Right. Thank you.
Your team earlier were telling me about when you were creating Oxyville, there was some restrictions around and extra costs around you being in Europe and kind of AI and VR that you had to go through the States. And can you tell us about that? That sounded a headache.
Yeah, it's a headache, but also because we have to twist technology. I mean, as I said, VR technology is still in this dark age. So we have constantly to find tricks, to find ways. And I'm very lucky to have a French startup called Voom with a brilliant and genius in terms of graphics and in terms of technically also to get the right to create the right environment, working with the right engine, with Georgi and Victor and Pavel and Maud and Louis and lots of so they are part based in France, based in Georgie, based in Italy, based in Barcelona, and but the beauty of it with VR is actually we can be everywhere in the world and working together. So it's not and it's much less and much less. You reduce cost than traveling, and it's very you are sometimes working on different time zones. So when part of the crew is sleeping, otherwise other people are working, and so on and so forth. So we work more or less 24 hours a day, and it's you save time, you save carbon footprint also, and we are also working for the distribution. We are for the platform with VR Chat in the American platform, and to do the broadcast and distribution. So it's an old gang of people from all over the world.
Lee's Mapman. Will the Atmos version be available for a physical release like the audio Blu-ray or downloads like the binaural mix?
Actually, Blu-ray will be maybe one of these days, but at the moment you can download the Dolby Atmos through platforms such as Apple Music, for instance, and you are able to play it through your amp, exactly like a Blu-ray. You can just
that's cool.
So you can and the amp will immediately detect if you are in stereo, if you have just stereo speakers, or if you are in 5.1, or if you are in a Dolby Atmos 7.4.1, if you have a sophisticated hall at home. So this is, you don't need to go through Blu-ray anymore. You can just play the file from Apple, Amazon, or other platforms available, and then your amp will detect automatically, like a Blu-ray, will detect the adequate format.
That's amazing. Yeah, I've like I said earlier, I've been listening to stuff I've got 3D sound in my car, and I drive in my, like you were saying earlier, I've got electric mode on my car. I've got a hybrid, and I have that kind of electric mode, but I also have 3D sound. And I listen to albums go and sit in my car and listen to them because it's quiet, and I get stuff moving around the car. It's quite cool.
And this is the future. With cars now, car companies are more and more into developing sound system. Myself, I'm working with Renault, the French brand, because they want to focus a lot into immersive sounds for the future, for cars of the future. It's very interesting because, in cars we don't think about the time, the charging time of batteries, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Then this is a free time you can use for getting some immersive sounds and VR, and it's a new kind of entertainment time, free time that you can use. So it's quite exciting. Cars are, of course, also in the future are going to be ideal places for listening to music or enjoying immersive worlds.
That's very cool. I agree with you. I just saw a question there pop in. 808 diffraction. What would your advice be to younger producers starting out trying to make it in the big stages? That's a great question.
For big stages, it's a very good question. It's when I started electronic music, you had no halls for electronic music. This is because you had even small theaters for rock or jazz, or like a kind of omnisport type of facilities where you had political congress on Monday, congress of Tupperware or Toyota on Tuesday, or basketball on Wednesday, and then you play on Thursday. And the vibes are quite strange for playing electronic music. This is the reason why I went at very early stage outdoor. To do outdoor gigs. Now it's more or less the same. You don't have so many halls. Dedicated for 360. So you have some, and otherwise. Of course, festival and outdoor venues are ideal because then you can set up your own PA systems, and then you can go until at the moment you can go to 3,000. But if you imagine few circles, you can go to 20,000 people. It's depending on the number of PA system and system you can install in the venue.
I saw a good question here. Will it be difficult to manage the reverb in a large hall when performing Oxymore in an immersive sound?
Ironically, it's easier in large halls. It's easier to be immersive sounds than stereo, because stereo you have a slap back from the back, but with 360, everything is all the reverb are cancelled by the speakers on the other side. So in a sense, it's easier to get more precise sounds in 360 than in a stereo in a hall.
That's cool. That's very cool. That makes much more sense as well.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, we're getting through these, Jean-Michel. We're getting through these. We got flipping loads. Is there any new producers you would like to work with?
Of course, a lot. I didn't have the opportunity to work with Dead Mouse, for instance, would be one, or Trent Reznor, or young producers such as you have Madion, or you have also Kygo, or lots of different ones. I mean, known or also beginners. I love also to try to find new blood, fresh blood also.
Yeah, imagine doing a boot. Imagine doing a boot camp with Jean-Michel, gang. That'd be mental. Like going and just being there with him for a week and just learning. That'd be sick. Anyway, let's play the next track. Let's go. I want to get it in before we run out of front page
Okay.
time. Let's do this.
Epica, yes.
Wicked. This has been amazing. Thank you so much, Jean-Michel. I think we're out of time. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for this conversation. It's been so much fun. And a really pleasure to meet you, and thanks for doing this with us. It's been great fun. Gang in the chat, thanks for being here.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation, Grahame. So and to share all this new baby with everybody. And thank you for all the questions, for following us, and see you soon. See you next time. And thank you, Grahame, for the time.
If you found this interview interesting, consider giving it a like and a comment. It helps with the YouTube algorithm, and let me know your biggest takeaway below. Don't forget to follow me on Twitch. I'm back on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and you can check out the schedule from the link below as well to see who's coming up in my interview series. I'll see you in the next Twitch stream or the next YouTube video. I'll see you soon. Bye.